So my last video is usually a recap of the year. And this year I wanted to do something a little different. I wanted to actually talk a bit more about the games. And I thought, well, why not do a tier list based on the games we played last year? So we're going to go through one by one, talk about some highlights, lowlights, and see where we end up. We'll start from the first one we played, which was the Alien Isolation DLC. I loved Alien Isolation. It was a brilliant game. It terrified me. I had a lot of fun. I love Alien. It's one of my favorite movies. So playing the DLC, I was really excited about because it was tying in to the movies. And given how much I enjoyed the baseline game, I wasn't surprised that I actually enjoyed playing it. The alien was just as terrifying.
Oh God.
There was a little bit of confusion I had near the end with the airlock part in terms of what I had to do. But it was a good challenge. I was terrified the whole time. I enjoyed all the throwbacks, the characters coming back. So it was a very solid experience. It was short. I enjoyed the challenge mode too. I was going to go back and do a few more, but we didn't end up having time. But yeah, it was a good game. It was solid. Being just a DLC, I'll leave it in B for now and see how we go. It was good though. It's a pretty high bar for B probably. The other DLC we played was the Outlast DLC, Whistleblower. This DLC was a bit extreme. It was Outlast, so it was very similar in gameplay and stuff, what you expect again. It got very close to sexual violence, which made me feel a little bit uncomfortable. I don't really like that topic.
But you really need to make an effort.
But it was a good challenge. It was fun. I did get scared in points. I probably put it C at the moment, but I think both of them might. You know what? I'm going to bump them both up. I've just got a feeling this is actually going to be higher than I expect. So after that, we decided to go on a sequel spree. We played Outlast 2, Evil Within 2, and Resident Evil 2. But let's start with Outlast 2 since we just talked about the DLC. Now, Outlast 2 was a bit different than I expected coming after the first one. There was a lot more larger environments. The back and forth between the school area and the rest of the game was quite well done. The school was terrifying. I was never feeling very safe there. Some kind of experimentation happening that was related to the first game. It also wouldn't surprise me if the events of the first game where we, destroyed what they were doing is what triggered their apocalypse. But I haven't too deeply dived into it. A lot of the time, I'm so terrified in these games, the lore kind of just goes a little bit over my head. The part in the mines with those creepy little crawly ones, oof, that scared the bejeebus out of me. Fuck, it's fast! Holy shit, it's fast! I love the idea of horror games, but I find them hard to handle. And so some of those scenes got a little like, oh, I hope it doesn't go too long because I can't cope. I think I had more fun playing it than Whistleblower, but not as fun as Alien Isolation DLC. So we'll put it in a Evil Within 2. Now, I remember the first game and I played it, and I think one of my biggest memories of the game itself was saying it felt like every level, like every area in that game was designed by a different designer because the gameplay mechanics kept changing. It didn't feel like a cohesive game in a lot of ways. And I think Evil Within 2 did a much better job of being a cohesive game. I think overall, I actually really liked Evil Within 2 much better than the first game. I think the storyline in the first one was a little stronger for me. It just flowed better. The first one was easier to follow and more strictly horror. The second one started to feel a little sci-fi. I found the gameplay much more fun in the second one. I didn't feel like I was fighting the game as much. It was much more polished. It was just a much nicer experience overall in terms of playing.
Shit. Run.
They learnt a lot of lessons from the first one and they applied it really well. It is a slightly different style of game, so I can understand there's some people who like the first one better. I think the horror elements in the first one were probably a bit more on point, but very solid game for me. I think I had more fun with Evil Within 2 than Outlast 2. Resident Evil 2. I'm just going to put this up here for a sec. So, those of you who watch my stream know I missed out on all the Resident Evils. I didn't have play console games. I saw a lot of you playing them as I grew up. They looked interesting and fun. I know they've been on PC for a while, but you know, horror games and me playing by myself, I've never been able to do. But when I streamed, I was like, okay, I really, really want to play them. And I knew the remasters had just come out too, so it felt like a nice time to play them. So my caveat with this is I didn't play the original Resident Evil 2. I don't know how much changed. But the remaster, it was a brilliant, brilliant time. I loved everything about it. It held my hand enough to not let me get completely lost. I loved the map and the way it showed me clearances. I loved the inventory system didn't get in the way as much as Zero did for me.
Shit! Oh. The double!
I like the puzzles, I like the combat, the boss fights. Some of them were hard, but overall they were rewarding. It's one of those games where you play it and you can tell a lot of love went into it and refining it, smoothing the edges. It was just a lot of fun. I played it 2 playthroughs straight back to back. Doesn't happen very often on my stream. In fact, it might be the only time it's ever happened. So yeah, I really love this game. The Shiny Hat Man and me, we had some good times. I think we played Song of Horror. The idea of losing characters with permadeath in that way and having to replay chapters, I thought, that'd be a nice little idea. Definitely wanted something non-combat. Really liked the storyline of the game, how it was going. The different characters was interesting. The mechanics for the scares, how a lot of them were dynamic. That was super cool. Losing all the characters and having to restart the chapter created this tension as well. I didn't really have any complaints about this game. I thought it was super solid. I loved all the little gameplay mechanics it introduced as it went along, and it kept calling them back. It was a really good horror game. Really enjoyed it.
Oh shit!
Not sure if everyone saw the
Fuck!
I'll put it in S tier for now. I believe the next game I would have played would have been Still Wasted Deep. Oh my word, that game looked great. I love the Scottish voice acting. So much fun. They didn't have many puzzles. It's more about going from point to point and doing objectives. Maybe a few more puzzles would have been fun to throw out some of the experiences, but it was a very cinematic experience. I really enjoyed a lot of that. There were some great scenes and moments. I'm going to put in the A tier here. I did have a really good time playing it. And I was terrified a lot of the time. Just like the chase on that crane was terrifying, and trying to run away from Rennick.
Oh, fucking...
Because the monster encounters were so short in a lot of the times. It was like quick chase, quick chase, quick chase. I didn't really feel like they were stalking me very much. I think if I had any parts where I felt like they were stalking me a bit more and a bit more systemic gameplay, it would have gone to S tier. But because it was so just on rails and such. Put it to A. Alright, let's look at Hellblade 2 next. Visually, stunning game. One of the best looking games I played last year. The audio design, excellent. The voices, oh wow. If I was giving this a rating just for visuals and audio, it'd be S. It was great in that way. Combat was actually really good too. The combat mechanic I actually had a lot of fun with.
I need to survive.
The negatives for me is the rest of the game. I felt the story was much weaker than the first one. It didn't gel with me as well as the first game, so I think the story for me was weaker in the second one. And the rest of the gameplay outside the combat, long-winded, lots of running around. I felt like we could have cut a few hours out of the game. It would have been just as good. Actually, that reminds me now of one of the things I didn't like about Evil Within 2, which is probably why it's not as high on my list. The ending of the game was the same, a very long, drawn-out ending. Don't drag it out. Don't make me run through 20 minutes of land to get to this final climax without anything interesting. Evil Within 2. It's the lowest on my list so far. It was the one I found the most a chore to get through. The boss fight with Tuga, her name, so good. The way the music and the gameplay was together, fantastic. That was a highlight. Let's look at Dreadout. I'm gonna actually put this above Hellblade, even though I didn't finish it. Because what Dreadout did really well is its atmosphere. It was terrifying. It was probably one of the most terrifying games I played, even though I didn't play it very long. That first area, I didn't know what was coming. There were ghosts. I was scared. It was so good.
Oh shit! What the fudge is that? Fuck! Nah. No thank you. No way.
Unfortunately, what quickly happened was their death mechanic made me quit the game. When I died, did they have me running towards a white light for a few minutes? Because what happened is I got to a part where I couldn't work out how the combat worked. And I spent more time running towards the white light than actually trying to do that combat. And that made me quit the game. Yeah, if a game isn't going to value my time, I'm not going to play it. Let's go to Paranormal Activity. And I almost quit this game too, because the controls, oh my word, the controls, they were not great. It's a VR game that's been ported to non-VR and not ported very well. I hate to say this because the devs actually came and looked at my videos and they were very nice, but I'm not gonna, sugarcoat it. I think that was the poorest thing about that game. Once I got over that, I actually did have fun. It was scary. There were some great moments of scares. In fact, the top scare was from that game. It got me really good. And I love that. I think jump scares work well on me. I'm always tense, so I appreciate them when they're done well. I'm going to put it here. I'm already thinking that I need to change these a little bit though. There we go. That makes me feel a bit better. Maybe one day we'll VR it and see how we go. Because I think without the controls, it will be a much better game. So we've got 6 more to go. Let's do Resident Evil 3. I had high hopes for this after number 2. And it was good. A lot of things that I liked about the second one were present in the third one. But it just wasn't as good for me. The story felt a lot shorter. I remember a lot of moments from 2 very clearly still in my head, where 3 wasn't as strong.
Oh shit!
But it's a solid Resident Evil. It's my second favorite of the ones I've played, so it's still good. I'm just comparing it to the second one, which I loved. So we'll put it over here. All right, Callisto Protocol. This was Dead Space to me. It felt so much like going home to Dead Space. The melee mechanic, very cool. Great addition. I could have played the whole game with that combat mechanic. Yeah, it was clever. It was smart. The enemies that couldn't see, I had so much fun in that section, which I think came across on my stream. I was rambling. I was talking to them. I was having a great time. One of the highlights of the year was that section for me.
Use the rocket launcher. But I don't have a rocket launcher. Oh, I have this knife that is more powerful than any gun I have.
Yeah, he did try to stealth kill me, you're right. And it was actually not letting one of the controls work to actually use my powers, so I couldn't throw things. I didn't realize until I tried it at another mouse. I was like, wait, this is working properly. I had fun. I'd probably put it in B tier, probably the highest in B tier. I did have fun with it. I think it was stronger than Evil Within 2, but it's super close between those two. You know, it probably tells me this is what I should be doing. Whoops. This is probably where I'm going now. So, Among the Sleep. Very different game. I played it because I knew it was going to be a different experience. It's not going to rate very highly. It's just, it was more of a walking simulator with some little scary elements. There were some good scares in there, don't get me wrong, and I'm very happy I played it. I think it was a good game to play for my stream. When my younger kids get a bit older and they want to do this scary streaming, it's one I'm going to recommend they do early on, because I think it'll be pretty terrifying for them, but without violence and stuff. The end section where I couldn't make noises, if there was a bit more of that, this game would actually rate a lot higher. They had some great ideas. I think they almost had too much kid gloves on for that game. It's probably what they intended to, so, you know. Phobia. A game I knew nothing about, went in blind, and I had a really good time. There were some similarities to games like Resident Evil. It was a survival horror, but it was a bit more combat focused. Some really interesting puzzles. I absolutely love the computer interfaces where I could actually click on the elements. That added a lot of tactile feedback to the puzzles. You could do a lot more complex stuff with it because of that, and I think that was a big plus for the game. It's probably the weaker part of their gameplay was their boss fights. I think to talk about Phobia, I have to also talk about Tormented Souls as well, which was they're very similar in timings when I played it. Tormented Souls felt a lot more like Resident Evil. The high things about Tormented Souls, the enemy design was terrifying. I had a lot of fun with that. I actually liked the weapon design of Tormented Souls too. I thought that was good. A lot of the puzzles were good in it too. Where Tormented Souls did poorly for me was they had a map which was not very helpful. I need in particular because sometimes it's a few weeks between when I've been in a room and I go there again, just because I only stream so little. So for me, it was a big deal, and was the most frustrating thing about Tormented Souls. But it was a really good game. I highly recommend playing it, and same with Phobia. Another great game. Highly recommend both of them. If you like those style of games, I think you'll have a lot of fun with them.
Fuck, it's after me! Ooh, it's spitting at me. I don't like spits. Oh, stop spitting! keep your stuff to yourself.
I find it hard to separate them in terms of the list. They were slightly different games, but I'm going to put them both up here. And Man of Medan, co-op horror. First time I'd done it. It was great fun playing with Everbloom. We did quite well. I actually really, the storyline I felt was really good, really strong. Negatives for the game was the first part of the game. It stretched on for a while without any action. I think it didn't have to. They could have thrown us in a little bit faster. But I'm gonna put it in B. I'm gonna put it here. I'd be interested to see what it was like not playing it co-op. Obviously, you miss bit of parts of the story. I probably miss half the scares, but I also wonder if it would have been less fun. I don't know if there was enough tension. As a co-op, we were kind of trying to talk together and work out what each other was seeing, and with the big spoilers, but the way people were hallucinating, it really threw a cat among the pigeons for us because we could only see one side of the story each. So I think as a co-op game, it worked brilliantly. But I think I'd put it there.
Oh, zombie.
Ah! Hey, Brad. What are you... Hey, what's wrong?
Oh, that's me.
What do you mean?
That's me, not a zombie.
What are you doing?
What?
Anyway, so that's a quick look back at my year. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if this was interesting or not. And I hope you'll join me on Monday nights where we'll go through more. And hopefully we'll get through a lot more games this year. Until then.